Hello and welcome to everyone. We have a very, very exciting panel discussion in front of us. The rise of NFTs, use cases today and tomorrow. Very hot topic, very exciting topic. We have a group of experts to discuss this. And I'm now going to let the word to Alexandra, our moderator. So the stage is yours and enjoy the conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Alex. I'm editor-in-chief at BeInCrypto. I started as a crypto journalist a few years ago. And I had the opportunity to look in various crypto niches like investments, NFTs, and DeFi, of course. And I'm pretty excited to have you all here to talk about NFTs. And maybe we can all introduce ourselves. Maybe Sean, you could start.
Hi everyone, I'm Sean Gardner. I've been working at the intersection of blockchain and the music industry since late 2017. I've deployed a product called Emanate, which is a on-chain music distribution, collaboration and monetization platform. Launched the first version back in 2019. Through 2020, we launched some of the first NFTs for deadmau5 at the end of 2020, and in early 2021, did NFT sets for Weezer and another round for deadmau5. And then this year we've been pulling together a project called ModaDAO, which is focused towards launching and sort of fast tracking the adoption of Web3 technologies through the music industry with a DAO first approach. So really just getting great people together to connect the dots, create standards and move things forward in a mature way. So we've been getting that team together, raising funds and launching our token this year, which has just gone out in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, it's been the most exciting year in crypto for sure, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Chris, you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Cris Carrascosa. I'm a lawyer and I've been in the crypto space since 2013, 2014. I've been working at international law firms in the crypto practice, and I lived in Switzerland during the 2017 ICO run, so I had the experience first person. Then this year, I launched alongside with a partner our own crypto law firm, which is the first Spanish specialized crypto law firm that exists, and I think the only one to the date. And we are currently working both with crypto native startups and DAO-like projects, and also with more traditional companies that wish to dive into the crypto space, but do not know really how. And of course, they want to do it in a legal and compliant way. So we go with them and we walk the path of the crypto rabbit hole. And of course, as Sean said, this has been a very exciting year, and I think next year will be a little bit more.
Thank you so much. Bruno?
Yeah, hi. My name is Bruno, and I currently run, I founded RMRK, which is the world's most advanced NFT protocol and a set of standards on the Kusama network. And we have a prototype launch set of NFTs that demonstrates this advanced functionality, but also run a platform that's open to everybody, kind of like a OpenSea for the Kusama network. That's called Singular, where we have a lot of good art being minted every day. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, before we deep dive into the world of the NFTs, let's make sure that we all know what NFTs are. I think everybody knows the crazy cat GIF NFTs, or like Jack Dorsey's first tweet, which I think was sold for 3 million. Correct me if I'm wrong. So NFTs are non-fungible tokens. The difference is in this interchangeability. Bitcoin, we can just interchange, no problem. But NFTs, these are like information on the blockchain, which are for everybody free to see on the blockchain because it's transparent and open. And it can be anything from photos to music, anything we wish for. And I think we just saw the beginning of the of NFTs. The world is huge, and I think we will see a lot more kind of NFTs than we actually see now. Maybe we can start with how NFTs changed your life and what kind of NFTs you are using and producing, maybe even. Who wants to start? Sean?
Sure. Sure thing. So, yeah, I can safely say that NFTs have completely changed my life. We sort of found working at the intersection of blockchain and music since 2017 that once we came out of that big sort of bull run through the end of the year and started going into the crypto winter through 2018 and 2019, it was really difficult to get people to pay attention to what was being built and the real sort of innovation that was happening. And we got a hell of a lot done during that time. But yeah, it was hard to really have proper conversations with people in the music industry, for instance. And then once we started rolling into 2020 and came out of the end of the DeFi summer, you know, people just started to ask more and more about the application of NFTs in the music industry. And suddenly, you know, these big sales started to pop off, and we started discussions with deadmau5 and his manager about doing a 1-of-1 on Super Rare and then doing a card set on Wax, and got that organized between sort of August and December 2020. And so much stuff was just kicking off in NFTs in general, but in the music industry more broadly. And suddenly, you know, every music manager wanted to talk about what was happening and what was going on and how to wrap their head around it, how should they get involved. And it really just changed things for us and led to the formation of ModaDAO as well, because we could see this real sort of land grab happening and a bit of a gold rush going on, but it didn't feel sustainable at the time. And it wasn't, looking back on some of the sales that happened and everything. So we set up this mission to really make things sustainable and work out how NFTs were going to be used in the music industry more long term. So yeah, professionally, it really kicked things up a gear. And for me, it was the first time that I've really been at the very, very start of a kind of hype, a hype cycle, I guess you could call it. When I got into crypto, we caught the end of the 2017 ICO boom. I only kind of caught the end of the DeFi summer because I was so busy just working on things relating to our products. But I was there right at the start when this NFT boom started to happen, and was lucky enough to buy up Bored Apes a few hours after they were minted and follow the different sort of run of projects and things. And it's just been the most fun I've ever had professionally. And you know, in the middle of lockdown and everything that's been going on in the world with the pandemic, it was kind of one of the things that got me through, just that entertainment value that you could have through your phone and your computer screen. So completely life-changing. And you know, really just felt like the professional world and the passion coming together as one. And I think that's why we've had such an awesome creative boom through all of this as well.
Nice, thank you. How did you experience the crypto NFT hype this year, Chris?
So I really feel identified with Sean, even though we professionally are in very different sectors. But to me, it was also like the confluence of my professional career with my passion, which was crypto. But I think it was more of a professional upgrade, or a professional, I would say, brain stretch, because it came alongside with new clients who were saying, we are minting these NFTs and we are going to sell them, or we're minting these NFTs. But in the worst case, it was, I've already minted this NFT and I have already sold it. What can I do now with it? Or what can I do now with my taxes? So what it's supposed to be was to actually get hands down, study a lot, get a track on what was happening. I wasn't so lucky as to purchase a Bored Ape, but I did purchase some NFTs on my own to see how did it technically work, so that we could then legally see the consequences. And since then, I mean, it's been really this year, but it feels like it's been a couple of years now. Since then, we've been working, and I've been working very, very thoroughly with clients that are not only minting NFTs like for like art, like maybe Bored Apes would be, but we also have some clients who are doing generative art, others that are doing NFTs for gaming, We're even looking at using NFTs for personal credentials and social credentials. So for me, it's been like a big challenge, but professionally more than personally.
Thank you so much, Bruno.
Yeah, I was in Ethereum since the beginning, but didn't really pay attention to NFTs until 2017 with the CryptoKitties boom. I was a big part of that, but when it died down, nobody was really kind of sorry. Everybody expected it to die down and to be a fad, so it was like, all right, so that happened. And so this new boom, I noticed that it was taking a similar ramping up approach in last year when it was starting, and but by then I was really frustrated with the state of NFTs on Ethereum. It was always just a link to an image, and this is why I built RMRK, to kind of move a few generations beyond that primitive NFT style. And this actually turned out to be a really good call, because there is high demand for composable NFTs that have multiple resources at once, that can be governed like DAOs, that can be and all of these NFT Legos that we've constructed that can fit together to create a system of any complexity. It turns out that people really do need this, people really do want this, and that if you just put in a little effort, you can unlearn the fact that an NFT is an expensive image and relearn that an NFT is just any row of data online that you can cryptographically prove that you own. And once you see it that way, then it opens a lot of new doors, and it becomes really, really cool to explore this entire NFT ecosystem, from composable music that we're playing with, where you have like an NFT be a beats track, and an NFT be a vocals track, and an NFT be a filter, and then you mint those NFTs into another NFT that is an empty music sheet. And then that turns out to be a full playable composition, which knows who contributed how much and how to distribute the royalties from that. Is really cool. But also on the other end, with the metaverses and gaming scenarios, stuff like this is really important, because right now all the metaverses, all the games out there are super centralized, where you essentially join somebody's multiplayer game. It's not a real metaverse. So all of this turned out to be the right call to build this advanced infrastructure. However hard it is for people to understand, it seems that like every 10th team understands it fully, but when they do, they really take off. And so I think that as this shift into NFTs 2.0 begins, we'll see less and less focus on expensive images and clip art rocks for $400,000, and more focus on intricate cross-project, cross-chain compatible item economies, in-depth multi-layer compositions of music, audio, and video, and a lot of other interesting stuff that people haven't really even imagined so far. So this is why I'm excited about the new NFT boom now.
Thank you so much. What interested me most in the last couple of weeks is the merge of NFTs and metaverse. I found it super interesting to see, because now it's coming to the masses with Facebook's Meta and all the PR about metaverse and anything. And I think we are already living in the metaverse, some of us at least. And for us, okay, it's crypto is not new to the metaverse, but I think the mainstream is new to the metaverse. And how can we expect NFTs and metaverse to go together? How is it used now, and how could it be used in the future? Who's going to take on this?
I could.
Go on.
Well, right now, when you have something like a Bored Ape, and if you want to put that into, I don't know, Decentraland, what that boils down to is you have the Bored Ape in your wallet. And when you log into Decentraland or Sandbox, what that application does is it checks if you're logging in with that wallet. It checks if you have the balance of the Bored Ape, if it exists in your wallet. And then it allows your avatar in the game to use a visual asset that is already in the game and mapped to that avatar in some sort of centralized database on their end. And so this is not the metaverse way. This means that in order to get some NFT into a metaverse, you have to first commission a team, usually the team that runs the game, to build an asset that matches this NFT that you have. upload that into their client, store it in a database where the ID of the NFT is mapped to that asset in the game. And then when your checking is complete, when you log into that application, when your wallet is checked out, then your avatar is allowed to use that asset. This is not the way to go. Because you always have this layer of things, and if that game disappears, if Sandbox disappears, if all of that goes away, it's not like your NFT keeps that model around. You have no idea what you had from experiences and anything you gained in that metaverse to the actual avatar that you used. And so currently all metaverses make the same mistake. They all work the same way. They all do this. And this allows you to technically be in more places at once, in multiple places at once, because you can just log into other metaverses with that same thing. The check is always the same. Do you have that Bored Ape? If so, then allow this avatar to be played. This is kind of like goes against the demand side, the scarcity side of that NFT. You can't really expect to be using it in 10 different metaverses because that's not it then. On the other hand, if you have like a more advanced system where you can have one NFT have multiple resources that vary the output depending on context, then you can do some magic. Like if you have an ebook that's a PDF that has one NFT, but that NFT has 3 resources, a PDF file, an audio file, and a high resolution cover. Then, depending on the context you load it in, that resource gets loaded. So if I load that NFT into Audible, it will play. If I load it into Kindle, it'll be able to be read. Same thing with metaverse avatars. If I have a Bored Ape in an NFT 2.0 system, that one NFT that is a Bored Ape can have an alternative resource that is a 3D model of that ape. And that 3D model is attached to the NFT, not to the game you're playing it in, which means that you can import it into the game. The game can make sure that your NFT is in that game because you will send that NFT into a land space in the game. This is what these nested NFTs enable. So if a piece of land is an NFT, then you can send your NFT into that piece of land, and your NFT cannot be anywhere else. And this means that you are truly in that metaverse with the avatar that is fully aware of everything it needs to render itself in that metaverse. And this is, I think, the necessary step towards a real metaverse where you actually do have enforceable scarcity, but also true ownership of these digital assets. And this is what we'll see a big shift towards as other marketplaces and projects realize this need and start shifting towards the standard.
Thank you. We already have a question, and I think it's fitting in. How can we explain in a simple way what really are NFTs to the rest of the world regarding to digital ownership, pollution, stealing art, and all what we know what NFTs might be? Who wants to take this one?
Feels like it leans towards legal a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I will try. I'll try. So from a legal standpoint, NFTs are considered to be, as you said, Alex, they are non-fungible, which means that it has no replacement. So if lost, so this is something we are taught at law school when we study what non-fungibility is, and this is that if you lose that asset, if that gets lost, then there's no replacement. In the same way that if you lend it and it doesn't come back in the same way, then it does not have a replacement. This being said, the NFT, I always say that it's just the way of wrapping up that characteristic, which is non-fungibility. So what you're doing is you're wrapping up an asset that does not have a substitute. It's unique. Then, when you put that inside the concept and the ecosystem of crypto and digital assets, that means that you've created for the first time in history real assets that are digital by nature, and that they have no replacement. Which means that, and this is something that I wrote in my Substack, which means that you've been able to create assets in the digital world, and you've been able to create with tokens, so non-NFTs, but tokens, you've been able to create an economy. If you take that to the metaverse, because you can explain NFTs from very different perspectives, but linking in with the metaverse, my sense is that NFTs are the real world assets that we have in the physical world, and tokens are the economy that digital world. And DeFi are the financial markets that we have in Wall Street, for instance. But everything is digitally native. So that's the difference between NFTs and something that would be more like physically replicable.
Thank you so much. We have another question, which is really interesting and fitting in. I'm so sorry. NFTs are the new Wild West of the crypto world, I think. And it's a bit overwhelming, someone is asking, right now with so much going on and a bit like the Wild West. How can we qualify which NFTs are really high quality and which is not having real value? Because this is what I see all the time. When I entered the NFT space, I was like, okay, this is a bunch of cats, whales, and everything is expensive, and I don't really have no clue what to buy. Do I need to buy something? And of course, I'm a crypto expert. I know how this world is working, but for anybody who's entering the space, this must feel like the biggest overwhelming ever. How can we differ between real value in NFTs and not so valuable NFTs?
I think like my sort of advice to anyone that feels like they should be getting in or should be buying something is just to probably like not try to be so rational. It's a fairly irrational space, and if you were buying like physical artwork or a sculpture or something for your home, you probably would make a more emotional purchase. You generally would be more drawn to a painting because of the way it makes you feel, or you like the colors. It's not going to be particularly rational, like I'm buying this painting because I think it's going to be worth 4 times as much in 6 weeks, or I'm buying this sculpture because I think it's going to be worth more in 2 years. I think if you want to get into NFTs and you feel compelled to, for some reason as a collector, probably follow your gut. And like when something is really screaming at you that it needs to be bought, then maybe that's the one. Make sure it fits within your price point, do a bit of research about the project, ask some friends who maybe know a little bit more about crypto, and maybe that's the one. For me, like when I bought my Bored Apes in the beginning, it was screaming at me like, you need to buy these things. That I saw what had happened with CryptoPunks, and I was like, I loved them straight away, and I bought one for my brother, and there's all sorts of cool stories that go along with it, but it was a real gut feeling, and I think the same is going to apply to music as well. As music gets more traction in the NFT space, like buy the songs that you love. Don't buy them because you think they're going to be worth more in a couple of weeks, because that can go in either direction.
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell us a bit more about NFTs and music? What is happening right now, and where is this heading within the next few years?
I don't think there's been any real serious traction yet with NFTs and music. Obviously, there's been some great music industry NFTs, collaborations, different sort of audio-visual pieces, but we're really focused on the audio, actual song releases. There have been a few things with Kings of Leon, Justin Blau, and others over the last year or so, but I guess like the topics that are quite hot at the moment, really, there's a lot of discussion around whether a song as an NFT needs to have a percentage of ownership of that song in it, or whether a song can just be a digital collectible in the same way that we would have collected vinyl or a CD not so long ago. And so there's a lot of discussion around that. I personally feel like we can just collect music as a digital collectible, and that if you have any sort of royalty percentage, that's kind of a cherry on top and starts to turn it into a different beast. And there's just a lot of discussion around where this might actually take the music industry over the next decade or so, because people inherently feel like I've seen a bit of pushback. Even a couple of weeks ago, deadmau5 sold a song with Portugal the Man, and a lot of people were saying, why are you selling a song as an NFT? Music is supposed to be enjoyed by everyone, and now you're making it exclusive. And there's a bit of an inherent flaw in that argument, because as soon as a song is sold as an NFT, it's there in IPFS and it's available for anyone to listen to. We just don't have this kind of shared infrastructure for streaming these NFT songs yet. So There's an idea that over the next, few years, we might go towards a place where music is actually free to consume and free to listen to, but the artists make money through the sales of NFTs to their super fans, which is an interesting new paradigm. So I don't want to go on about it all day. I could if you wanted me to, but yeah, those are the things at the moment that are interesting to me.
Awesome, thank you. I've recently seen that Snoop Dogg had a concert in the metaverse. Is this a thing, or is it like a one-time? Okay.
This is definitely a thing. Yeah. We've run a number of metaverse events. We actually have one on in 2 days for Emanate inside Crypto Voxels, which is our Christmas party. And we've got about 10 or 12 artists lined up to perform a live set inside this Crypto Voxels space. And we did the same thing for our 2-year anniversary. And these are like real gigs, especially to like the younger generation. And especially in this time of sort of dubious conditions around whether you can actually go to a face-to-face concert and whether you might get shut down at the last second or whatever. I think like COVID partially has pushed us in this direction where virtual shows are a very, very real thing now, and people are getting paid for them. And yeah, it's definitely not going to go away. I think we're going to get to a point where being at a physical face-to-face show is a real audio-visual treat for the senses, but that most live shows will have some sort of virtual version that you can attend from anywhere in the world. And you might have 10,000 people at the real live show, but you might have 10 million tuning in through various different virtual sort of metaverses and landscapes online. So it's really happening fast. And one of the things that's not happening just yet, which we're really looking at closely with ModaDAO, is there's currently no way for people to collect royalties properly within that space. And again, that's where NFTs come in. In the real world, if someone performs one of your songs, or if a DJ plays one of your sets in a nightclub or a cafe or a bar, then there's usually a collection agency that will try to collect some funds for the performance of that music. And that's not currently happening in the metaverse at all. So we don't know what the solution is just yet, but we've got, a lot of people thinking about it and working on potential technical solutions so that people can get paid fairly in the metaverse and out here in the real world as well.
Thank you. Chris, a question for you from my side. How can we maybe explain to others how digital and physical world are growing together and how NFTs help? And what is the legal outlook on this when these two worlds merge? You're muted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Tough question, but the thing is that we are dealing constantly at our law firm, which is called ATH. We're dealing constantly with this misfit. That means that we're trying to deal with new assets inside very traditional transactions and very traditional regulations and very traditional contracts. So I would say that there's a way of bridging that physical world with the digital one, but it takes a team of people who actually know, on the first place, how does the technology work. That would be like my super first recommendation. And secondly, they need to know, or they need to be able to translate that the plumbing behind that technology to like real world or more not so technical language and enforceable agreements from a legal side. I mean, is this easy? No, I don't think so. And we've been dealing now. So, for instance, there's currently now a big discussion in the legal ecosystem, at least in Europe, which is whether regulated companies, which are funds and VCs, can invest in tokens. So, for instance, in Spain, that seems to be a no answer. So what we are trying to do is, because at the end of the day, VCs and funds and professional investors are super interested in entering the NFT space. And, we've got like these new structures of composable NFTs and NFT funds and DAOs managing NFT funds. So it gets complicated and sophisticated as you get adding more and more surfaces. But what we are trying to do with it is be innovative, but we using the current framework. So things like SAFTs or just rethinking about SAFTs and investment contracts, and we are like walking the path of something that is between a regulated activity, but something that is not regulated. So our task or our challenge is to build that bridge so that clients or startups that are doing super innovative things, and there are a lot of them, can actually see that they can do their business with a very high level of legal certainty in a jurisdiction. So one of my claims, I know us lawyers are not very, very well seen, do not have a very good reputation inside the crypto space. So one of my claims is to make the law very approachable to these digital metaverse-ish, DAO-ish projects, and just make them understand that the law is something that we can all benefit from, even if it's anchored to a physical jurisdiction with a physical regulator.
Thank you so much. There's another interesting question. Do you see a market for physical NFTs, such as antiques, cars, motorbikes, and so on, used within a metaverse? Bruno, maybe this is something for you.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. We are experimenting with some phygital goods where you actually, I mean, this is just playing around, but right now we actually, when we're 3D printing some figurines, you pause the printer at like 2 millimeters height, you put the chip in, an RFID chip, and then you resume the printing, so it gets sealed inside the figurine. And then you have like, on that chip, you have the link to the NFT so that it's permanently bound to the NFT. Naturally, this can detach. If you sell the figurine separately from the NFT, then it can very well happen that somebody owns the physical part and somebody else owns the digital part, but it's still interesting nonetheless. There's also a lot of interest in bringing these physical goods as scans into various 3D environments. Metaverses, not so much, because right now 90% of the metaverse projects are focusing on 3D in the browser, which means by default that their graphics will be suboptimal and they will not be able to support high fidelity, high resolution models scanned from the real world. But there are some 3D gallery projects that actually do support high resolution projects, though these are not really metaverses. These are just literally 3D galleries. Still very interesting to explore. But one of the more interesting aspects that is translatable from the real world into NFTs is real estate deeds that can be represented as NFTs. And we've seen actually a couple of sales already where people sold their house using an NFT as a deed. Naturally, this also has some caveats and hoops to jump through. This is something that Chris will know more about, but essentially the way we did it is you have to make a pre-arrangement with a public notary who is aware of this condition, and this public notary will witness your burning of that NFT in front of them as a claim to the deed. And when that happens, they can cryptographically verify this happened, and the ownership of that deed transfers to the burner, to the one who got there and burned that NFT. In the meanwhile, from the moment of minting to the moment of burning, this NFT that represents a real estate, like an apartment or a house, can actually be freely traded online on decentralized exchanges, used as collateral to get a loan or anything else that you want to do in the DeFi world. But once you want to claim it, you have to take that NFT, bring it to the notary, burn it there. And then if you want to sell it again as an NFT, you have to remint that NFT, repeat that same condition with the same notary or a different one. This is just a limitation of the current government system globally, where they just don't recognize blockchain yet as a true record of information. But this will change, no doubt about it. One thing that NFTs 2.0 make possible with these things is also very interesting. With that multi-resource and nesting capability, you can actually have a deed that's an NFT that inside of itself contains photos of that property, of that location, energy certificates, construction and renovation plans that happened throughout the years, photos of a previous version of the house, anything that you want from the past history of that deed can be contained inside of that one NFT, so that you don't have to chase it down with the various government offices around everywhere and so on. You just have pre-verified history inside of that one object, and this adds more value to the truth of that object when it's in its NFT form and when it's being traded online. So this is something very interesting. So yes, there's very much a lot of interest in bringing physical things onto the chain.
That's high-level legal hacking, eh, Bruno?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. When we talk about the future of NFTs, we need to talk about the environment as well, because we saw a huge conversation about Bitcoin and the environment when Elon Musk decided to not accept Bitcoin anymore for his Teslas. And we see the discussion upcoming now about NFTs. And what is your outlook on this? Where are we heading and where are we right now? Who wants?
For pollution?
Yes, pollution.
I think it's kind of a crazy point, not really based in reality. The blocks are going to get mined anyway, full or not. It's not like a fuller block spends more energy. They spend the exact same amount of energy. Just some people pay more Ether for getting into fuller blocks than into empty blocks, but the block costs the exact same amount of energy. It's no heavier if it's very, very full of transactions. Also, there are tons of other blockchains now that just are proof of stake already and do not use mining at all, where minting 10,000 NFTs costs about as much energy as Mother Nature needs to digest a breadcrumb. So if people are worried about pollution and just about spending computing power on nothing, I would recommend that first they complain to their governments and shut down various factions of the government where thousands of computers are sitting idly every day, where people play solitaire on them and don't really do much more, rather than a proof of stake network, which actually financially secures the global ledger. So it's quite a moot point.
Nice, thank you. Chris, I have a question for you. Real estate NFTs, how could this work? Because I already saw someone selling his home in Germany for as an NFT, but I don't know how this worked out legally. I cannot imagine. You're muted, sorry.
Yeah, so these sort of transactions, they have been trying to be executed all around the world. It depends on the jurisdiction, because land registries are different and they work differently in different countries. But for Spain, for instance, real asset NFTs are not very feasible right now. Why? It's because of a regulatory request, and that is that you will always need a notary and a public deed for the purchase to be legally valid. This means that you can, of course, and it can be done. And if you look up at the news, I think it was in Ibiza. It was a real, a very big house sold for as an NFT. This is like the front end of the transaction. The back end is that the seller went to the notary and then they did all the paperwork and everything was done as very old school, like we've been doing for ages now. It's just that you minted an NFT that said, this is my public deed, this is my purchase agreement. And then you can say, I sold my house as an NFT. But on the real side of things, the truth is that the legal operation was done as usual. There was nothing new, there was nothing digital, there was nothing crypto there, nothing.
All right. And what is your outlook on NFTs and digital land, like in the metaverse?
That's something different. I mean, I think so. The way this Decentraland works with these virtual parcels of land that are being sold. So I don't think those are going to be ever considered as real estate from a legal standpoint, but more like a digital product, which is something actually it's great because we will not have to be compliant with all the land registry regulation, which is like very, very harsh. And my my thoughts around this is I am an owner of decentralized parcels, so I do believe in digital land a lot. Actually, I am saying it as something that's complementary to what we today. So we've been all living in a digital in a physical world. We've gone digital only for like social networks and Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and e-commerce. And what we're seeing now is that we can actually upgrade those networks to something that is tokenized and has its own economy. In this way, what I see is that it will just flourish like a new ecosystem with its own economy. And of course, those agents that want to make new revenues out of this new ecosystem, then they will just be able to do so if they actually make the effort of actually knowing how it works and how to get into it. But I think they will just go live.
Awesome, thank you. How do you think will legal issues develop around NFTs? Like for now, it's super unclear. For me, at least. It's like crypto in the beginning, of course. Regulation will come, but
I must say that I'm a lawyer, but I'm not very fond of regulation. So, or at least I'm not very fond of extra regulation. So I've been studying my own regulatory framework and the European regulatory framework because I am part of the Blockchain Observatory. And I've come to the same conclusion as the European Commission, that is that our current legal framework is sufficient and is enough to cover today's legal challenges, but we may need to do some like adjustments, not inside like the legal bodies, but in the way we make interpretations. So just a very small example, the Spanish regulator, when ICOs and STOs were being launched in Spain and there were these security versus utility tokens, what the Spanish regulator did was, and I see it as something very positive, was instead of issuing new regulation, and I think we can all agree we live in an ultra super regulated world, what they did was they just grabbed our 2015 securities law and they said, hey guys, we can just reinterpret this article and say it can apply to tokens. And in this way, you know that if you want to issue a security token in Spain, you must be compliant with this law. So nothing new, the law that's been set forth, and it's been now applying since 2015, but it works. And we are issuing security tokens in Spain and we do not have any legal problems. And I mean, besides scams, scams will always be scams, and that's something criminal, not something of the securities laws. So I think that legal challenges will rise on the sense of more of the criminal side of things, so, and with NFTs, we're seeing it. I was reading yesterday an artist in Twitter who was complaining about someone copying her pieces and actually uploading them in OpenSea. And she was saying, okay, I am selling my own pieces, but there's someone that's selling them too. And doesn't this mean that we haven't actually fixed a problem with NFTs? And I do agree, but I think that issues will come on the criminal side of things, which at the end of the day is something that we cannot fix. So we're humans, and there always be someone that's willing to commit fraud. There always be someone that's willing to take your money, and at the end of the day, the regulatory framework for that sort of attitudes works, at least in Europe works, and it's enforceable. So thanks God we have it.
Sure, but in many ways you have like the responsibility is also on the application layer of things and on the other humans to self-police and do this properly. If you have like a terrible application doing most of the NFT work in an entire ecosystem, like OpenSea, for example, then you can't really expect things to be done well. I mean, if an application requires you to have a certain number of millions of dollars in volume before they will verify your collection as original, that's flawed by design, and that's almost as if it's made on purpose, saying to thieves, "Hey, thieves, steal this much money from other people before we give you a check mark." That's nonsense. So we just need to think about it in a more UX friendly way on how to just protect people. There's also a lot of different projects now coming out that will automatically identify cross-chain, cross-platform, cross-collection mints that are identical by comparing metadata, images, fractions of images, and just basically doing automatic reverse search across many different NFTs so that you get a warning when you actually try to buy something. Hey, looks like this already exists in some form somewhere else. And so I think this is more a userland problem than a legal problem. There will, of course, always be thieves, always be crooks, always be people who are willing to do illegal things. But if platforms were thinking a little bit less about just collecting money and hoarding their piles of gold in their underground caves, and thought more about users, I think we would have a much cleaner landscape of NFTs.
I couldn't agree more, and I was having exactly this same discussion yesterday, and I was holding the same argument that you're holding now, which is the one that what are we? Do we think that we are doing something good when we are not protecting smaller artists but protecting the bigger ones? So wasn't this? I think I remember this was about democratizing and making a better world and these things, and we're just keep on committing the same mistakes. So I mean, I cannot agree enough with you, but I also think that, as you said, we are still on a very embryonic phase of the technology, and we will surely see services coming up to cover these sort of holes or loopholes that we're seeing now.
Awesome, thank you. I have a question regarding gaming and NFTs. We didn't enter that space yet. What is your thought on this? Because I think the use case now is already proven, but the future is yet to come. What can we expect?
In gaming? In general?
Yeah, gaming and NFTs. I think the use case is already there and active.
Some use cases are being explored, like selling skins for games, for avatars. This is by far the most understandable approach that most people will feel familiar with, because they're already buying skins in Counter-Strike, in Fortnite. They're buying skins, only now they're doing it for in-game coins and not for crypto, and they can't really take their skins with them. Once we translate that to users, as in you now own this cosmetic item from the game, we have like a good in with the mainstream crowd. But I don't think this is the ultimate end goal. This is just a foot in the door. Real ownership of experience is what the end goal is. In a way that if you're playing a game, you achieve certain levels, you achieve certain skills, you collect certain resources, you buy some land, you have some ownership in that game. That ownership does not disappear if the team does. If tomorrow the SEC decides that Sandbox, needs to be shut down because for whatever reason the SEC issues these warnings because they don't like somebody, the Sandbox will disappear. Your land will disappear. It doesn't exist anywhere else other than in their system right now. And whatever you've achieved in that game goes down with that server, goes down with that server cluster. it is not easy to restore. You do have some record of owning some land, but nothing else. And I think that as we transition into richer NFTs that can store more information, you actually end up with experience that you can take with you. So if your avatar in a game is your primary avatar that you interact with frequently, that avatar will gather experience. You can think of an NFT like an experience card. That NFT is inside your avatar NFT. That experience card can get its own NFTs, like a badge if you're accomplishing something, then a badge if you're accomplishing something else. This travels with you. This travels with your avatar, but can be verified by every single metaverse you join. And so if Sandbox goes down tomorrow and I log into Decentraland 2 weeks later, Decentraland can check, oh, if you accomplished this, this, and this in Sandbox, then of course we will let you into this club in Decentraland. And so by building this on-chain reputation in your primary avatar without having to juggle different wallets, different NFTs and everything, it's all collected into one bundle of experience that you can always take with you and your one bundle of ownership. This is the true meaning of the metaverse gaming experience, where you just really own whatever you've accomplished. You own your accomplishments. You don't feel like you've lost the invested time in this parallel world, which will become more and more and more common as we travel further into this COVID madness. So I think that's the end goal for gaming, but the skin trading already is pretty cool as a start.
Thank you. How could NFT interoperability look like? Because now we see different niches like music, videos, anything gaming. How could this merge, or will this merge in the future? Maybe Sean, this is something for you.
I think we can talk about interoperability from a lot of different points of view. I mean, Bruno was pretty much just talking about it then, and we could talk about kind of cross-chain interoperability as well. But I think like the biggest thing that I see is really like what we're talking about here is the emergence of a true digital economy. And like most of e-commerce and the value that's been shared on the internet over the last couple of decades has related to the real world. Whereas what we're looking at now is purely digital commerce that doesn't necessarily map back to the real world. And that's why we're witnessing such a boom. And that's going to lead to all sorts of different interoperability and relationships between different games and NFTs and the real world as well.
Thank you so much. I think we are at the end of our discussion. I thank you so much for being here and discussing this with me. And I think I need to hand over to Victoria now.
Thank you, Alexandra, Sean, Chris, Bruno. As you can see, we had plenty of questions and many more that were not answered. This is a good sign, a lot of activity. So thank you so much for having such an engaging conversation. I think we could have continued for another hour, but we don't have another hour, unfortunately. So thank you so much to the four of you. Amazing. And for the audience, if you want to ask more questions to Sean, Chris, Alexandra, Bruno, they are all available through the People's tab. So you can reach out there, or you can reach out via Twitter or whatever platform you prefer. Thank you, guys. See you now in the next session. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.